Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles halftime show. 14-12. Eagles over the Ravens through two quarters. Bo Wulf and Fran Duffy here to give you the quick reaction, unpacking of what we saw in the first half. And Fran, it started ugly for the Eagles, as it has many times this season, really. Down 9-0 early. Two bad offensive possessions, and as Deniz has told us time and time again, this Eagles offense over the course of the season, the worst offense in football in the first two drives of the game, the best offense in football after that, and they did indeed settle down, getting their first touchdown on a nice little RPO to Dallas Goedert, a familiar play to us, then taking the lead on a tush push for Jalen Hurts. The Ravens steal a field goal at the end of the half. We can talk about a little bit of a controversial play at the end there. Your big takeaway from what you saw?
I think really, first of all, Jalen Hurts starts 0 for 4 in the pass game and then goes on to complete 9 of his next 10. And we saw a handful of play action and RPO throws that really made things well-defined for Jalen in those situations where it wasn't just straight drop back and have to read the defense out. A little bit more defined in terms of what the reads are, clearing up some windows for Jalen Hurts, certainly leaning into the run game. 45 yards on the opening half for Saquon Barkley to start, just 4.5 yards a carry off those 10 carries. So far, an efficient day for the Eagles offense. You got to keep it going against a good defense.
Yeah, you could absolutely understand the reaction from Eagles fans on those first couple of drives where the first play of the game is a first down run for Saquon Barkley. And then he doesn't get the ball again, nor does A.J. Brown on that drive. It's an incomplete pass to Paris Campbell, a pitch backwards to Will Shipley, and then an incomplete pass to Britton Covey. Okay, maybe that's not the star forward offense that Eagles fans are used to. They go 3 and out again. They have to punt in their first 4 possessions of this game. I know that you hated the 3rd and 2 was a split zone play where they're running behind Paris Campbell, where if that was Johnny Wilson, maybe that makes sense. But then they go ahead and punt on 4th and 2 after that, which then, to be fair, does pin the Ravens at the 1, sets up their subsequent touchdown scoring possession. But it felt like, did you think that, like, play calling wise, they had to settle into this game as well?
A little bit. And honestly, that's kind of what we've seen. I mean, we're starting to get to the point now where this theme has popped up.
It's like we can't,
Well, because now you start to wonder, okay, like, are they really just kind of pushing buttons to see what the defense is doing and then preying on that a little bit in those ensuing drives? If you're an optimist, that's the way you probably want to start looking at it here with this Eagles offense. Yeah, I did not love that 3rd and 2 play call. That felt like one where, Johnny Wilson is part of the game plan in the early part of the week, and this is going to be in. They've done that the last couple of weeks with Johnny Wilson, where he's become a much more prominent blocker for Saquon Barkley at the point of attack. When he gets lost late in the week, probably don't want to take that one out of the playbook. Okay? Maybe don't run that one behind Paris Campbell. He loses there at the point of attack. But as you noted, they punt there, get the Ravens pinned down to their 1, backed up situation. They get the ball back, and they get it back in plus territory.
Yeah, there was a point early in this game where I said to you, like, you just take a step back and you're like, okay, you look at who's on the field right now, and there's Britton Covey, and there's Paris Campbell, and there's CJ Uzomah out there. Like, this is not exactly the like Super Bowl caliber offense you're thinking of personnel wise. And yet, eventually they work themselves back into it. As you said, Jalen Hurts 9 of 14 for 104 yards and a touchdown. What did you like from what they got out of A.J. Brown after sort of settling into this game? 5 catches for 66 yards for A.J. Brown.
Well, we saw a couple of completions off RPOs and play action over the middle of the field. And that's been something that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks on this show, is that those early down play actions and those early down RPOs, you're seeing the linebackers come up to attack the line of scrimmage to try and see if they can stop Saquon Barkley in their early down run game. As the Eagles continue to lean into Saquon in that way, that's going to open some things up over the middle of the field, and that is a really fruitful area for quarterbacks to be able to attack, and it's been good for A.J. Brown in this game. So you saw a couple of 15-yard completions on that last scoring drive, and then even the 14-yarder on that drive, that was a little inbreaker that Tony Romo broke down on the broadcast, where it's just a simple high-low read. And again, it's a really simple read for Jalen Hurts. You don't have to try and see if you can read things out and have to decipher what the coverage is. You're reading one defender and getting the ball out. Sometimes when you go up against a really fast, aggressive defense like this Baltimore defense is, simple is often better, and we saw that from Hurts in the second half.
How about the Dallas Goedert touchdown? He has 2 for 26 and a touchdown in the first half.
Yeah, there was a basic RPO that we've seen them run time and time again over the years. This time, you're going to see A.J. Brown. He kind of leaks up the field a little bit, basically setting interference for Dallas Goedert, and Goedert just goes out to the flat. And what I like there on that play is when you go back and watch it, A.J. Brown turns out, first thing he looks for as he's celebrating, he's got his arms up in the air, he's looking to make sure there's no laundry on the field. There's no flag down, no penalties, but Dallas Goedert gets into the end zone. Really acrobatic play by Dallas Goedert, getting into the end zone there and not stepping out of bounds, but a good way to get on the board there through the passing game.
And Saquon, 10 carries for 45 yards and a catch for 5 yards. I think you see the juice in Saquon's legs in this game. I think we have seen that the Ravens are indeed a good run defense, but he's getting 4.5 yards a pop, but there have been a couple nice 10-yard runs or so. I think there will be a point in this game where Saquon busts a long one.
In the locker room right now, I can guarantee you Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, those guys are going up to Jeff Stoutland. They're going up to Kellen Moore, to Nick Sirianni and saying, it's going to break. We're going to get one of those big gains that we've seen. And honestly, look for it on the opening drive, because that's what we've seen from Saquon Barkley in some of these games. That opening drive coming out of the locker room, he's able to bust off that big one.
All right, let's talk about the other side of the ball, where Lamar Jackson has been good. He's missed a couple throws, but 11 of 15 for 140 yards and a touchdown. The Eagles have bottled up Derrick Henry, 9 for 35, and a bunch of tackles for loss in there. Eagles seem to be doing very well at the line of scrimmage for the most part, but the Lamar Jackson factor, you saw it for a couple big plays in this game, a 40-yarder to Zay Flowers, the insane touchdown pass to Mark Andrews, and another 20-yarder to Zay Flowers. He's tough to bring down. The Eagles have this is a different type of player. Obviously, he's one of the best players in the league. They're gonna have to be as good as they were for the majority of the first half. It was very similar to last week, actually. 2 big drives for the opposing offense on the first 2 drives. Then they forced 3 straight 3-and-outs.
Yeah, and honestly, so much of Baltimore's yardage in this game so far has come from some explosive plays. You mentioned that they bottled up Derrick Henry, 35 yards on the ground for Henry, but 19 of them came on one play. So basically 8 runs for 16 yards the rest of the night so far. You'll take that if you're the Eagles. On the fly a little bit as you were talking. But then you look over Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's had a couple of big completions down the field, but other than that, the Eagles have been able to keep the ceiling on this passing attack and really are trying to make the Baltimore Ravens earn it down the field. We mentioned earlier on this week on Friday's show about how this offense can try and beat you in a multitude of ways. They can go with the long ball or they can try and bully you. Well, if the Eagles are shutting the door in the run game, they're going to try and make Lamar Jackson beat them with dinking and dunking down the field. Honestly, that's the best way, I think, to try and keep the lid on this offense.
Eagles and Ravens both had 30 plays from scrimmage in the first half.
Okay.
Ravens 5.6 yards a play. Eagles 5.5 yards a play.
Wow.
Very even matchup so far.
Very clean. It's going to be a fun second half. We'll see. Obviously, the Eagles are going to get the football. We'll see if they can get the run game going and continue to ride that momentum. It really felt like they started to settle into a groove there in the second quarter.
Now, one way they are not even. 7 penalties for 50 yards on the Eagles, just 1 penalty for 5 yards on the Ravens. And Eagles did get a little bit screwed at the end of the first half there on that sack by Jalen Carter of Lamar Jackson, because if they don't throw the flag there, it's a sack and the clock keeps running. There's 21 seconds left. They got to scramble to the line of scrimmage. They probably end up getting a field goal from about the same distance, so it's probably not that big of a deal. But bad process by the refs there.
Yeah, and honestly, I wouldn't take that for granted because Justin Tucker has not been automatic this year. So I think that yardage certainly could have helped him in that instance.
Any predictions for the second half as the Ravens prepare to get the ball first?
Honestly, I think the one thing we talked about it a little bit, when the Eagles have had success with the run game against some of these good defenses, Jalen Hurts has often been a big factor with his legs. We only saw 1 or 2 design runs from Jalen Hurts in the first half, and they were in critical situations. One was a 3rd down play in the low red zone to help set up his touchdown run. I would expect to see a little bit more Jalen Hurts with the ball in his hands, design quarterback runs from Hurts in the second half.
I like that. And then just to cross a couple T's, we did see a few plays defensively where they went base, and they did take Cooper DeJean off the field, kept Isaiah Rodgers on the field. Not a ton of rotation going on the edge, though. We have not seen Charles Harris yet, just leaning on Jalix Hunt, Nolan Smith, who is playing very well, and Josh Sweat, who is playing very well as well. They are flipping those guys around, but so far sticking with the guys at the top of the depth chart.
Two sacks so far for the defense. 1 came off the board for the Avonte Maddox penalty on the 1 touchdown drive for Baltimore, and then another one where Milton Williams had Lamar in his grasp. So the defensive line, it's been a little bit up and down. That touchdown to Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson had all day in the pocket, but overall, you have to like what you've seen so far from this defensive line.
All right. Should be a fascinating second half as 2 of the league's best square off. In the snow now, the Ravens set to get the ball first. Eagles up 14-12. We will be with you for the full post-game show with Vinny Curry and Jamie Lynch taking you through it all. Enjoy the second half, everybody. We'll talk to you in a couple hours, and as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.